financial assistance, we can say that the desire to professionalize child and youth care in South Africa through DUT as the current conduit, as the one university that's currently having programs. And something was mentioned earlier about long distance learning, that we currently don't have long distance learning at DUT, but we are developing pathways. I like that word. Increasing issues of access does not prevent us for the future, looking at the numbers that have to be taken care of, that we might look in the future into something similar. But for now, because we still have the ability to teach online, where people don't necessarily have to physically be on campus, it means when we start this, once the process has been completed, we can still be able to discuss those issues of saying, at which point is the attendance physically, and at which point can we be able to blend the teaching with off-campus learning for the child and youth care workers that will be joining us. So from our side, I'd like to say we totally support the process. We still agree with the agreements that we had on the 2nd, and whatever comes out of this, as long as it's in line with further discussions that we had, that we put on the table as DUT, we will be supporting this process. Thank you very much, Ms. Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khware, and for your reflections and also for the commitment from DUT to contribute to this important development in the life space of child and youth care workers, increasing access to education, but supporting them through possible options that can propel them forward. I'm going to check if Department of Higher Education, Mercy Suela Zulu, on Tatesi Ziba, if any one of you is there, please give your reflections from the department. Thank you. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to move us forward now to the next presentation. But before I do that, I want to just quickly check if there are new guests that I might have missed. I've noted the presence of Maike Hirschberg from UNICEF, one important stakeholder, and we thank UNICEF for the continuous support to all our events. I want to acknowledge also Prof. Swanzen, member of council, and colleagues from the Child and Youth Care Fraternity in the Eastern Cape, Free State, and KZN, to acknowledge the presence of Ndate Kabasia, the DDG in Gauteng, Ms. Vivian Bajomo, also from Gauteng Social Development, Ndate Devon Chinapan from our national department. Let me see quickly if there's any. Ropa Mashoko from the, I think it's Pietermaritzburg, provincial chairperson of the Child and Youth Care Center in Pietermaritzburg. And any other colleagues that might be there who have not put their information on the chat bar, thank you so much for making the time to join us. I'm now going to move us forward and have the presentation by Ndate Donald Ngonyama, who's the Deputy President of the South African Council for Social Service Professions and also Chairperson of the Transformation Committee. He is going to give us, on behalf of the District Development Model Task Team, their report. Over to you, Ndate Ngonyama. Malebogeng, can you please put the presentation into slide mode?
Can you, Madam Registrar, may I please put it up from this side?
Yeah.
So that I can have control.
Okay. IT, please allow Ndate Ngonyama access. Are you sorted?
Now I'm waiting for IT to take this one down.
Sorry, Madam Registrar, I'm not the one who's presenting at the moment. Who's projecting the presentation?
Who is? Budon, can you please try to share your screen?
Okay, yes, please give me a second. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Whilst Ntate Ngonyama is sorting his slides, I'm requesting that members or guests who have to give reflections and any other participant that is present, please write in the chat bar. It is important that we acknowledge the people who participated in this feedback session and to thank you for your, for your contribution. So please just go ahead and write in the chat bar so that we can properly acknowledge you in our reports. Thank you. Over to you, Budon.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. As indicated, my name is Donald Ngonyama. I am the Vice President of Council as well as the member of the District Development Model Task Team. Firstly, I would like to thank the task team members for all the work that we have done since the last summit. We believe that we have done a lot was achieved, and this is what I will be presenting, the work done in the past few months. Firstly, we developed a problem statement where we indicated that large numbers of qualified child and youth care workers are unemployed, and those that are employed are underpaid and have limited opportunities for career progression. And I think I also need to indicate that give a little bit of a background of the district development model. That the district development model was launched by the President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2019, and that it is located in Kokta. The DDM requires the development of a single strategically focused one plan for each of the 44 districts and the 8 metropolitan areas. This will enable all the 3 spheres of government, national, provincial, and district, to work together with communities and stakeholders to plan, budget, and implement in unison. And we felt that it's important that we use this era to entrench child and youth care in that. The district development model, in seeking to ensure a coordinated government response to the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, has the potential to be responsive to the crisis in the child and youth care sector in South Africa, where large numbers of qualified child and youth care workers are unemployed, and those who are employed are underpaid and have limited opportunities for career progression, as I have already indicated. The Department of Social Development, Education and Health all form part of the district development model, and the potential exists for employment of child and youth care workers in various settings, such as schools and drop-in centers, working within multidisciplinary teams to provide responsive child and youth care services to children, youth, and their families. The South African Council for Social Services Professions database indicates that there are over 15,500 child and youth care workers registered. Please note that the previous presenter spoke of a different number, and I'm sure the chairperson of the child and youth care will present to you a different number. But the number that I am giving you, it is the overall number of all child and youth care workers who are in the database of Council. Some of them may be in the process of registering, some may have not renewed their payment, or there may be other reasons that they are not included in the number that was given by the previous presenter, or that will be given by the chairperson of the Child and Youth Care Board. But I am giving you this number to say we actually have more people who have shown interest in registering with the council. Of this number, it's important to note that about 10,000 child and youth care workers result from the investment made by the DSD during the rollout of the ECBND program. And there are child and youth care workers who are strategically positioned to be deployed in line with the district development model. A mapping exercise has been done to determine where child and youth care workers exist in provinces and in district level. We found this to be a very interesting process because it helped us to understand where are these child and youth care workers, and if we're to get them included in the district development model, how will they fit in? There is a need to further drill down to understand how many are employed and unemployed in those areas. That information we were not able to get before this summit. It is critical that we think and engage in the one plan and to clarify how the social sector departments, DSD, education and health at national and provincial levels are engaging in the district development model and budgeting. We need to lobby for the inclusion of the child and youth care workers in the one plan and the budgeting. And there are 3 pilot districts identified by COPTA. We think that within those 3, at least we need to use 1 or 2 of these as pilot district for the child and youth care inclusion. And that will give us a very good idea of how the child and youth care worker will play their role within the model. And these are the members who are in the district development model task team. We have Ms. Maike Eilbrecht from UNICEF. We've got the registrar from Council, Ms. Malamba, Ms. Pat Martina, Molebogeng Mailwa, who is the secretary of the Board Child and Youth Care, Ms. Faith Mola, Ms. Isabella Sikawana, and Dr. Zenita Badu from the Professional Board of Child and Youth Care, who is also the chairperson of the board. The District Development Model Task Team achievements. We have had 2 meetings, but there was a lot of work done in the background. And in that, we completed key analysis and database of currently and previously registered child and youth care workers in the different provinces, which demonstrate the demand and need for child and youth care workers in provinces. We have necessarily to map the workforce for planning purposes to inform unemployed child and youth care workers about the availability of employment opportunities, the district level disaggregation analysis that is still needed, but I will also share give you an understanding of where child and youth care workers are around the country. Development of business case for inclusion of child and youth care workers in the district development model. We also had a meeting with COPTA last week where we have agreed that there will be a further meeting and workshop with the provincial hub managers where the roles and responsibilities are going to be crafted, and that will form part of the memorandum of understanding between COPTA and Council. And we, in continuation of achievements, there was a high-level summit on the 3rd of July, and with the role players that included the Minister of Social Development and COPTA, and it was attended by 49 people and 292 people who joined through live streaming. And we all in that meeting, we had UNICEF, we had the National Department of Social Development staff, in addition to the minister. We had Health and Welfare Sector Education and Training, the HWSETA. We have funders, corporate social responsibility partners, members of the council, and the professional board for child and youth care. The summit has been critical in demonstrating the role that child and youth care workers can play in advancing the district development model. And we also, in that summit, said that there is a need to explore how to formalize the collaboration so that some of the child and youth care workers and social workers who are already in the district can be brought in to work closely with district hubs as central points of coordination for all these efforts. Timeframes depend on how quickly COGTA, Council, and DSD can move in terms of formalizing the process. And Mr. Fossey is the link person between COGTA and Council, and I think Mr. Fossey is in this meeting. So we would like to thank COGTA through you for all the engagement that we have had and the work that still needs to be done. We believe that it's going to be a very fruitful partnership between Council and COGTA. I have already indicated that we are going to be having another meeting with COGTA. And we also want to indicate that HWSETA it's supporting deployment of 100 school-based child and youth care workers interns that are being deployed in 5 districts in KZN, integrating child and youth care services into the district development pilot in eThekwini. You know, it's something that it's going to show us the impact that we can have in having child and youth care workers within the district development model. So what we also did was to do a disaggregation of the child and youth care workers that we have in our database. So this is the disaggregation per province. The numbers shown here does not dispute the numbers presented by the chairperson, as I indicated, but include everyone who had presented themselves as child and youth care workers and who are willing to be registered. With this data, we can safely say that there are more child and youth care workers in the ground, and we also continue receiving more and more applications. So I'm not going to go into deeper details on these slides, but it just gives you an idea how many child and youth care workers we have in the Eastern Cape and the different districts, in the Eastern and the Free State in the different districts, and in Gauteng in the different districts. You'll see that we have a lot of child and youth care workers in Gauteng. We've got 4,184. And in KZN, in the different districts, 4,023. And then in Limpopo, in the different districts, the 5 districts, we have 936. Mpumalanga, we have 1,201. Northwest, just over 1,000. And in the Northern Cape, we have 583. Western Cape, 1,520. So, and it shows the different districts where we are having these child and youth care workers. Like I said, we need to drill down and understand in which towns, in which communities we are having these child and youth care workers. So we're also saying that there is an approach to child and youth care workforce development that we expect if we are to have them in the district development model. And firstly, it's planning. We need to understand the magnitude of the need for child and youth care workers in the whole country. We need to identify gaps and current numbers of child and youth care workers and locations. And then these children, once we have this information, they need to be supported. We need to ensure that there is localized understanding of stipend and salaried child and youth care workers so that we are able to advocate. We have said in the past that many of the child and youth care workers are on stipends and they need to be moved to salaries. We also need to promote national policy and legislation that it's in line with the work of the child and youth care workers. The promotion of the professional regulation of child and youth care workers, it's critical. We need to identify funding support, like I give an example here. In Kimberley, De Beers might say, they are interested in funding a community where there are child and youth care workers. So where we are able to have funding sources, we need to understand those areas and support needs to be provided so that the funders are able to support the work done in there. The labor relations and associations, these child and youth care workers need to be supported in terms of labor issues. I have seen that we've got the trade unions who have joined us. So it's good to have them because there is a need for that part. And they are members of the association. There are a number of members from the NACCW, the only association for child and youth care workers, who are in attendance in this meeting as well as through YouTube. We need to do a lot of advocacy and education in supporting the child and youth care workers. And then there is developing the workforce. That is ensuring that the demand for localized quality training is provided, developing programs and models to showcase child and youth care practice. And we have seen that over and over in our country, where models are developed to show the role that child and youth care workers can play. And an example was Isibindi, identifying gaps and developing deployment of supervisors. It is critical that wherever we are having child and youth care workers, we need to make sure that they are properly supported and supervised. So last slide, it's the next steps from here. Looking at all the work done, what are the next steps? The next steps will be to conduct further analysis of district level location of registered child and youth care workers to map all child and youth care workers at district level. Use this information for evidence-based planning, developing and supporting of the child and youth care workforce. Target localized funding for the training and development of child and youth care services in district with no child and youth care workers, because as we looked at the data, we realized that there are areas where we do not have child and youth care workers, and in some we've got child and youth care workers, but we don't have supervisors. And then finalize the memorandum of understanding between Council and COGTA, ensuring the integration of child and youth care workers and the entire social service practitioners into the district development model. So, Chairperson, that is the work that was done by the District Development Model Task Team in the past few months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tate Ngonyama, for a very informative update about the district development model, the opportunities that exist. And I want to congratulate your committee, or your task team rather, for the rich discussions that you've had, and also the wealth of information that is embedded in your slides. And I'm sure that respective departments who has a role to play in advancing the district development model would also take note of some of the things that you have shared. I'm going to now allow reflections. We have two people tasked with reflections for this particular session. However, I would beg for your indulgence to allow Mayor Bakedi Mutubatse, who stood in for Mayor Elaine Brass from the Health and Welfare Sector, to do her reflections on the previous presentation. I did not see, I only noted in the chat bar that she was there carrying the mandate on behalf of the CEO. So I'm going to allow that she does the brief, presentation or remarks on behalf of the CEO. And then I would allow Ntate Themba Fosi, the DDG from COGTA, to do his reflections, followed by Mayor Amanda Bokwana, who will be speaking on behalf of the acting DDG Welfare Branch, Mayor Isabella Skawana. Thank you. Ausbakedi.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Bakedi Jane Mutubazi, Executive Manager for HWCTA in the ETQA department. The CEO could not attend this meeting because of previous engagements that she committed to, and she asked me to reiterate her pledge to the as a support from the HWCTA, and that the HWCTA will support any proposal that will be coming through. She also requested some time for the HWCTA to look at the proposal and also review the proposal and looking at other options that were highlighted by, they were presented by the SACSSP representative in the meeting that was held on the 2nd of November. So she is still where she was last week, and she said there's nothing to add on that, but the HWCTA is pledging support to the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ausbakedi, for the further commitment to support. And we really appreciate the strong partnership that we have with the Health and Welfare SETA, same as with UNICEF. We appreciate the engagements, the robust, engagements that we have, which builds towards the workforce strengthening in this country. We thank you so much for bringing the message. It's a message of hope indeed to the child and youth care work sector, but to the whole social service sector as a whole. I'm going to now move over to DDG Fosi to give his reflections. Over to you, Butemba.
Good morning, Sis Landy, and greetings to the President of the Council, the board members, and then all the participants in this platform. And then let me thank Mr. Ngonyama also for that comprehensive presentation. From COGTA side, firstly, we are responsible for facilitating the institutionalization of the district development model. And by its design, it's meant to inform all of government in how they plan, they budget, and implement and ensure that you have a coherent approach to implementing government programs. So in that context, I think the work that we've started with the social services sort of profession, I think it's in our interest to ensure that there's an integrated approach to addressing social transformation and provision of social services functions. And in the context of the one plan for all the districts, it becomes important that as we look at that one plan, because there'll be different chapters there, one looking at, for example, economic positioning, infrastructure, but on the integrated service provision, this is where there's a focus on social transformation. And as part of our work is to ensure that all the stakeholders that are focusing in this area are able to work on one plan. So it's not really about alignment and mobilizing and coordinating the various stakeholders, but it's to ensure that there's a joint planning, there's integrated planning. And if we work on integrated approach, it gives us, in the context of the TDM, the ability then to coordinate our various sort of funding streams, but also provide us with an opportunity to have a targeted approach. And I think the work that you've done, I mean, the presentation that Mr. Ngwenyama has done already provides the capacity that exists already in the system. And then when government looks at the capacity and capability of the state, in this area, you are sitting with quite a large number of underutilized capacity and skills. And if we are a caring government, and we need to focus in a targeted way addressing social transformation issues, we need to then look at how we tap into this existing capacity, because the challenges of high levels of poverty, youth unemployment, challenges of gender-based violence and femicide, these are challenges which at a district or municipal level, we need to build that capability there to ensure that the plans that both, in fact, all the three spheres that develop are informed by the reality on the ground. So our plans must be responsive to that reality. So we are committed as COCTA to work and walk with you as we start looking at the pilot sites. And I think the lessons that we can harvest from those pilot sites will give us then an opportunity to look at how do we replicate this into the other districts, how do we mobilize the resources within the state. There are quite a number of other measures working with the presidency that we are looking at. For example, we are looking at introducing a framework within that informs APPs of all national and provincial departments. That departments, when they develop their APPs, they must account spatially for that work in the 52 district spaces, including the budget. It must be spatially mapped. We must be able to hold sector departments accountable on what work they are doing in the district, what work are they doing in the one plan of those districts. And this is one way of introducing a new paradigm, a new culture, and a new behavior in how the three spheres of government addresses silos, fragmentation, so that we all as the three spheres work on one plan that then will maximize our resources and ensure that in a targeted way, we're able to change the conditions of our people on the ground. So we are committed to this process, and we will work with the council and then also the board to ensure that we find sustainable solutions to these challenges. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you, Abu Temba. I appreciate your commitment, and there are some important things that you have highlighted in your reflections. I like the idea of a coordinated one plan, which takes forward a targeted approach, and also the acknowledgement that we have an underutilized workforce that can strengthen local, provincial, and make sure that our social transformation agenda is taken forward. So there's a lot of synergy between what we are doing as council, as civil society, as government, but we need to find an integrated way of working so that we can pull all our resources together and strengthen the available workforce that we have. It will be said indeed that we have an oversupply of qualified people sitting at home who should be contributing to addressing the social challenges that you've highlighted, the issue of gender-based violence, for example, but also the poverty levels in our communities, not having adequate statistics about which households are granny-led or child-headed and so forth. We need to find, a creative way, and I like what you said, that government has to be a caring government, a responsive government, making sure that we take everybody with us as we move forward to, to transform our communities and enhance the quality of our nation building. Thank you so much, Ndate Fosi. I will allow Mayor Amanda Vokwana to also give reflections in terms of how our National Department of Social Development is also making strides to support or advance the district development model. Over to you, Sis Amanda.
Greetings to everyone. Greetings to you, Chairperson, and the Registrar, as well as everyone who is in this meeting. My name is Amanda Vokwana. I will be responding on behalf of the acting DDG, Mercy Kawana, who is currently in Parliament to present some policies, and the DG as well. I would like to say on behalf of the department, we are welcoming the presentation which is made by Mr. Ngonyama, who is the Vice Chairperson of the Board of Child and Youth Care. We are also welcoming the initiative which is made by the Council for us to be collectively putting our thoughts together in terms of ensuring that we strengthen the area of the child and youth care. And Mercy Kawana indicated that I should mention that DSD is supporting the process fully with regard to the initiative of the district model. She indicated that I must indicate the department at this point in time is currently championing the integration and the aligning approaches in terms of the services to the district model. If you remember, colleagues, some of them were invited in the department on the 13th of September. I must say the month of September was dedicated to the how part that the department can be able to improve and strengthen these initiatives. We had a national stakeholder engagement to look at how we can strengthen the issue of the reimagining and the reinventing of the DSD. And I must say there were quite a robust round table discussions to deepen the collaboration between the DSD and the sectors. And the children's sector was also invited. If I remember, there was a topic, one of the topic which was mentioned in on that day. It was around the state of children in South Africa. So the robust discussion on the 13th was followed members by the sector Imvuselelo, which was on the 21st and the 22nd of September. And based on the inputs that we received from the different sectors, the department resolved that it should come up with a 15 departmental or sector targets to strengthen the life cycle, and one of them was the issue of the embracing the district development model, so that we will be able to form part of what the DDG has just mentioned, that one plan that is coherent, because in our community there is quite a lot of things that are happening, like the issue of gangsterism, issues of rape, the violence, and I must say also the teenage pregnancy and the bullying, and those things are happening within the space of a child. So hence there was a need, and that resolved that we need to embrace the DDM, and that now is part of the critical sector targets. So as the DSD, we are going to strengthen and rationalize the issue of the DDM, and it is going to form part of the sector targets, where we'll be able to report and look at all the things that the Mr. Ngonyama was talking about, how we can integrate, how we can have that coherent space within the child space. I think, Chairperson, that is what the DDG indicated that I should share with the summit delegates. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amanda, for updating us in terms of what the National Department is also doing. And I'm sure that at one particular point we'll be able to align, our thoughts and share our best practices and whatever revelations that are coming from the different types of research that we are conducting in respective spaces. We will be able to bring everything together into one pot, which will ultimately lead to the one plan that Ntate Fosi was talking to. Thank you so much. I think at this stage, I'm not sure if anybody needs a body break, but because, like I said earlier, we are fighting against load shedding, I would want us to move as much as we can. If anybody feels tired, please just stand up gracefully, take a cup of tea, walk to the bathroom, do whatever, but we're not going to break, because we might just lose everybody at a particular point. So I want to now move forward to the OSD task team led by Ntate Alfred Harris, member of council, and also the member of EXCO, who will be representing the OSD task team. Over to you, Ntate Harris. Thank you.
Good morning, honored guests. Greetings from Cape Town and all protocols observed. And from the OSD task team, I just first of all want to thank all the members.
YouTube link and see if it's working, or is it just fine?
Somebody is misbehaving. Please, can you mute if you're not speaking? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Registrar. So we start again. Good morning from Cape Town. Thank you for this opportunity. And then also I want to thank all the members of the OSD task team who was part of the deliberation and the discussions and the input. And it was very, very valuable. And from the regulatory body, we were glad that we could engage with a variety of stakeholders, including the organized labor, and thank you for the labor for guiding and providing input into developing what we want to, as we part the way forward for child and youth care work in South Africa, to improve the lives of children and protect and enhance the protection of children in our community. Thank you. Maybe we can move to the first slide. Now, the OSD task team developed a problem statement as all the other task teams has developed. And one of the things that we have identified is that the human resource plan of the department doesn't have a focus on child and youth care work in general, but the focus is mainly on social work, and where they focus on child and youth care work is mainly focused within the residential care setting and not as we are moving out to communities. And then also one of the things that is challenging in the sector is that the current, and Mrs. Rakwana's presentation is going to speak to this, is the current OSD does not reflect, or the employment doesn't reflect the requirement for registration, as the professional board for the child and youth was only inaugurated in 2014. So at the moment we get a variety of people who's not registered or with qualifications coming into the field. And then we've also identified through various documentation that there is no clarified or clear career path for child and youth workers in the public sector. And then there's also a lack of parity in terms of salaries between government employed and NGO employed. And this is basically linked to the fact how the funding to NGOs is structured in terms of financial awards. And then what we have also what the sector's development is also impacting is that there are some NGOs who's continuously being paid late and they cannot pay the salaries to the staff. And there's an impact on those people who really want to pay the registration fees. And sometimes the wait can be up to 6 months. And that then also impacts on the service delivery to the vulnerable children in our various parts of the country. Thank you, Lebo. Next slide. Our focus, colleagues, in the STARS team was to assist and support the DSD. And again, Ms. Wakwan is going to speak about this, is to develop a costed business plan to ensure that we move the sector forward in terms of job levels and also employment requirements for the sector. But this costed business plan or business case was only focused on the public sector and not for the private sector. The registration regulations make provision for the registration of childcare workers at both a professional and an auxiliary level. But at the moment, the job descriptions of the childcare workers employed in government does not reflect the scope of practice in line with the regulations. What we will find is that jobs are advertised at one level, and that is a child and youth care work, and it doesn't say that whether this is an auxiliary post or whether this is a professional post, because both those posts will require different qualifications as indicated by the regulations. And then national DSD, through our different engagements, we've come to know that the National Department of Social Development is busy with the organizational realignment. And what we want to say is that in terms of that realignment nationally, starting from national office, is that post for child and youth care workers, not only in residential care facilities or in the communities, but also in the various offices that national DSD and the provinces prioritize the post for child and youth care workers in their offices, and not only in residential care or community-based settings. Then also that we also want to have a focus on ensuring that when adverts goes out, and this is where DSD and DPSA needs to engage with other to ensure that the adverts reflect the regulations, and then we also make sure that every year the department comes out with internship opportunities. That internship opportunities will also be reflected for child and youth care workers. And one of the things that we have heard from the board side is that the competency of having internships lies with the provinces. But from our viewpoint, if National doesn't provide the guidance for the provinces to have these opportunities there, those opportunities will not be made available at the provincial level. And then what we also want to see is that we spoke about the salaries, that there should be parity across the sector, whether you're in government or whether you work in the NGO sector, but the salaries are on par with each other because the people undergo the same training and they work almost in the same kinds of settings. Thank you, Lebo. Next slide. Now, what we want to do in terms of supporting National Department of Social Development, and we want to say that from the task team side, we want to support the National Department of Social Development, who will lead in addressing the human resource management and human resource development issues facing child and youth care workers in both government as well as non-government settings. What we endeavor to do is on a regular basis, we want to convene meetings with National Department of Social Development as a support mechanism, not as a mechanism to see what they are not doing, but to see how together we can move the sector forward, is by having regular engagement to make sure that the solutions that are taken are moving forward and are being fulfilled. Because there's no use we have a summit, we all get excited about the summit, and after the summit is gone and all the pens are put away and all the papers are filed, that nothing is happening. So the OSD task wants to make sure that we continue to engage with National Department as a team, and we are on one team moving the sector forward to make sure that we want to have one view for the sector. Then also, we also want to inform National Department that we want to work with you guys to make sure that we conclude on the outcomes and implementation of what the business case that you are going to present to the various structures in government, that those outcomes are realized for the sector, because that's going to make the sector move forward. Thank you, Lebo. Next slide. These are the members of the task team. As you can see, it's a wide-ranging members who was part of the task team, and I really want to thank each and every member who diligently came and not only present but also actively participated in the deliberations in the task team, and your input, colleagues, as you can see, has been taken into account and it's reflected in this presentation. Thank you, Lebo. Next slide. Now, we have had 3 meetings, colleagues. We assisted with the National DSD Development Project Plan, which they presented to us, and I want to thank Mrs. Wakwana and the team for that presentation. But we want to say that DSD remains responsible for the driving and implementation of this plan, and in consultation with this team. Now, what we as a task team is saying is that we need to look for a new name. As OSD is a name that has particular connotations, so we are looking for a name to give to the task team, because the task team's life hasn't ended yet. We still have to have some work to do. What we have achieved, as Ms. Wakwane said, we had a meeting on the 17th of August, and what we have discussed is that we look at the job descriptions, and Ms. Wakwane will take us through some of the things that we spoke about and the outcomes of that. But yeah, I'm going to leave that to, I'm not going to speak about that. Last slide, Lebo. Lebo. Is there another slide, Lebo? Okay. Okay. Then what some of our achievements, colleagues? We want to say that we have back Lebo, the previous slide, Lebo, please. Okay, let me continue then. National DSD will finalize. Oh, there we go. Okay. We have drafted the business case that was developed by National Department of Social Development. We have had consultations, and this business will be presented to the various structures in government, including DPSA. And then we also have the discussions on what we think the structure for child including the public sector should look like, and that DSD will take that forward for further follow-up with their structures internally. Again, Mrs. Wakwana is going to speak about this in her presentation. Next slide. And then, colleagues, what we will do is National DSD will finalize and present the business case to DPSA and the various structures. Like I said, Mrs. Wakwana will speak about that. And that the National Department will also ensure that the HR plan that they're developing shows inclusive child inclusion at different levels in the department. And we want to make sure that they are represented at the different levels in government, not only at the facility level, but also at the policy and at the management level within the department. Thank you.
Thank you so much, with Alfred, and also the task team that you worked with, the task team members. We appreciate the robust engagements that led to that rich report that you've given back to us. I want to now request Mayor Amanda to do a presentation before we take reflections from our respective members from the unions, as well as the Sector Bargaining Council. Over to you, Sis Amanda.
Good morning again. Protocol observed. Thank you, Chairperson. I think I'm not going to repeat what Alfred has already said, because what he has presented mostly are in this presentation. Can you continue, Lebu? Can you go to the next slide? I think he has already spoken about the progress holistically in terms of where we are and what is it that we have done, you know, as a team, which is the entire team that was tasked to do the work. The project plan, he has already spoken about it, the business case, and the workshop. I must say that workshop was it was a broad workshop because all the provinces were part of the workshop, which is all 9 provinces, the board members for the child and youth care, the registrar as well. Unfortunately, because there were other commitments, she could not attend, but it was a broader a workshop where we would wanted to engage holistically on the issue of the problem statement, and thereafter we had our internal discussions as a department, because we had to go back and present what we have done to the leadership of the department. Next slide. I think I'm not going to talk to the rationale. It also talks to the problem statement, what my colleague was talking about, the issue of the regulations and the professionalization which happened in 2014. So that was the actual reason why we had to go back and look at the job description and the key responsibilities and the scope of work for this cadre, because there are some limitations and there are some gaps that we have identified which are making it difficult on the ground because of those anomalies that we had to look at. What we have done on the 17th, can we go to the next slide? On the 17th, we had to look at those 3 categories, which is the first category was the child and youth care work, which is at a production level. And the second one is the child and youth care, which is a team lead. The third one is the child and youth care supervisor. If I may indicate to the summit, remember, these are the 3 categories that when we were implementing the OSD, which is during 2010, we implemented OSD with these 3 categories. And at that time, if you remember, the regulation and the professionalization was not passed. So hence we had to look at them, because how they were scoped, how they were defined, it was not clearly coming out in terms of the descriptors, in terms of the level of education, in terms of the regulation as well. So we had to look at that. So what we did, we looked at the individual job descriptors, which is your key performance areas and the skills that are already attached into those 3 categories. And we also look at the level of education and the qualification. Remember, initially, we were not broaden ourselves in terms of the level of education, where we are having now a degree, an honors degree, a master's, and so forth. But mostly it was around your grade 12 and the experience thereof. So we had to look at that in terms of each descriptors. So what we have done as well, we had our discussion around the issue of the job titles, whether these job titles, can we maintain them as is, or we can rename them, because if you look at the nomenclatures, you need to align the job families together in terms of what exactly that these categories are supposed to perform, what is it that they are supposed to achieve, and where are they supposed to perform. So those are the things that we had to look at. The next slide. Out of the discussion, number one, we had to look at the issue of the level of education. Remember, as I've alluded earlier, during the implementation, it was only level 12. So we had to look at, if, for example, we are having auxiliary, your child and youth care auxiliary, what would be the level of education and the qualification that we will be able to align to this category? Because now there's quite a lot of development in the field, and even in terms of your legislation and policies, there are a lot of changes that has happened within the country and even beyond the country. So, which is therefore, we agreed as the collective to say we need to look at the auxiliary, which is your entry level, and ensure that at least the N2F level 5, which is your FET certificate, that we need to link to that. But we said there are those incumbents or officials who at this point in time are having level 4. So we said we should now work towards the ones who are having level 4 to obtain level 5. Remember, all these other discussions, like the discussion with your DUT, with your UNISA and so forth, we will be able to look at how can we take them to obtain the level 5, because we will really do not want to leave them at level 4. Number 2, we look at the professionalization, the professional side of it, which is the ones that are having beyond your grade 12. We said at least the national diploma or a degree should be linked to that category. And of course, because now we are professionalized, and of course there is a registration within the council. So when we are now amending or enhancing the job description, the registration, which is part of the scope of practice, it needs now to be allocated to all these categories, because the registration is one of the elements that is required. Going forward, in the next slide, as I've alluded, we look at the issue of how can we, what is it that we need to do in terms of the job titles or the naming conventions or nomenclatures. We said those where the issue of the determining factor was the issue of the years of service, the experience, and the qualification. So, which is therefore, we had to look at the current as is, especially on the team lead, because the team lead at this point in time, if you look at the work a load of that, it's more or less with the supervisor. So we propose that, how about we rename the team leader with the name of the CYC supervisor, but of course the determining factors will be your years of experience, your years of service, and the qualification. And the second one, we look at the current as is supervisor, and our proposal was that, how about we rename that to be a child and youth and a child and CYC manager that will be reporting directly to the facility manager or to the institutional manager. So those were the unanimous proposals that came from the collective. When it comes to the next slide, those are the descriptors that we had to look at in terms of the current as is, around the generic job description, which is implemented by DPSA and OSD, and there are enhancement descriptors that we proposed. We did not look at it, we look at it holistically, but we had to refine areas that were not clearly refined, and ensure that when we now approve this job description, at least it will be a bit clearer in terms of what are the work content that need to be performed by the production level, which is your auxiliary. And we also look at the work content of the team lead, which we are proposing as the supervisor. And the third one, the care manager, the child and youth care supervisor, which is now the supervisor, which we are proposing the manager. I'm not going to read one by one, but this presentation is going to be shared with everyone so that you will be able to see where are the proposals in terms of the work content, in terms of the work demand, and the quality thereof that these occupational categories are supposed to perform. So I'm requesting from you the permission that I don't read one by one, otherwise I'll be taking time if I do that. The next slide is showing the current workforce in terms. Can you go to the next slide, Lebu? Can you go to the next slide? Yes. So this is now the issue of the capacity gap, where we are showing where are we at this point in time with regard to the occupation, child and youth care cadre. If you look at the issue of the professional, we are currently seated at the 121. In terms of the auxiliary, we are at 7689. In terms of the student, we are at 263, and student auxiliary 3209. That is the overall total where we are seated as the country. Hence now we are beginning to engage with the universities so that at least on the issue of the professional, we will be able to strengthen that number as well as the number of the auxiliary in terms of the level of education and the qualification. So this is the kind of the high level snapshot in terms of where we are seated as the country. But this is only from the public sector, but it is not from the side of the private sector. We are still going to do that kind of a study and the audit so that we will be able to show the holistical and comprehensive view in terms of where we are seated. Can we go to the next slide in terms of the way forward? With regard to the way forward, we, as I've alluded earlier, we had to go back to the department and brief the entire leadership around the work that we have done as this team. So out of when we were discussing with the leadership, there were some proposals that were made by the department. I think my colleague Alfred made mention of these challenges and other anomalies. So one of them was the issue of the career progression for the CYC cadre, where we need to broaden the career progression, because if you look at this the cadre, beyond the supervisor, there is nothing. So which is therefore, we really need to look at it in terms of how can we, strengthen the career progression and the career work in terms of them, so that maybe we can have your assistant directors, your manager, and so forth and so forth. Number two, the proposal was that we need to assess the capacity of this cadre, so that we will be able to understand the individual level of qualification. Because at this point in time, we know that there are those who are having your grade 12, which is your level 4, and so forth and so forth. But we need to do that scientific understanding to assess the capacity. So what we have done from our side, there is a template that we have prepared and developed that is going to be shared with all the provinces, and maybe later on we will expand it to the private sector, so that we understand what is the level of qualification for each and every official that is within the DSD. Number 3, the issue of they propose that we need to relook at the recognition of prior learning, so that at least those who do not have a qualification, they can be able to work towards having a qualification, and we expand on the level of qualification, as well as the issue of conducting the salary implication and costing towards the enhancement of the job description. So we are saying, as the department, there is still some work and analysis that needs to be done. And I must say, in the back office, we are beginning to do that work, especially the scientific studies on these issues, and those will have now to be tabled to the EXCO for consideration. Remember, we've got we've got HSDS, which is entail of all the heads of department, and the MINMEC, which is having all your MECs. So this is the work that also the minister will have to be aware and know about it. So the analysis will be incorporated in the business case. Alfred spoke about it, and that should be submitted to DPSA, as they are the custodian of the OSD processes. Remember, the issue of the OSD is subject to be a part of the negotiations to the PSCBC and as the directive of DPSA. So whatever that we are doing in that business case, it has to go back to DPSA for them to know where are we, because they advise that the issue of the job description can be separate from the issue of the OSD processes, so that when the OSD is happening at the PSCBC, I think my colleagues from the labor, they will talk about those things. But there is work that we are going to embark on. In terms of the recommendation, we are requesting the next slide, Lebu. We are requesting the summit delegates. Can you move to the last slide? Okay, it's not moving. We are requesting the summit delegates to note the progress that is presented by the department together with the team, and there is also some further work and analysis which need to happen, and that will be presented in various governance structures for consideration, for the endorsement, and for the approval. Of course, as we are saying, we are not doing this alone. The entire team and the board members, they form part of the team. When we are engaging, when we are consulting, they will form part of that. I think that was my last slide. I thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sis Amanda. Very informative, and we really appreciate, like with the rest of the other groups, the engagements amongst members, looking at particularly the issues around career progression, recognition of prior learning, and also issues around parity in salaries. We know for a fact that within the social service sector generally, we have a problem of aligning salaries to make sure that people are affirmed for the type of skills and worth that they bring into the sector. So I'm very happy that this task team has focused on the real issues that are affecting our child and youth care sector. So I don't want to spoil it. I'm going to now open it up and allow my colleagues from the health, public health, social development sector bargaining council, Bundate Mushabi, from Nehau, Date Butelezi, from PSA, Comrade Ricoto. I'm not sure if my colleagues from Hospesa are here, but any other members of the labor federations who are present are welcome to give their reflections to the presentation on OSD. Thank you. I would open it up. If members can just please raise their hands so that I know who's going to be talking, followed by who. Comrade Butelezi, I note your hand. Lebo, you'll just guide me if there are more hands. I will start with Ndate Butelezi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Registrar. Greetings to the President of the Council, the Deputy President, and all members of the Council and the professional boards. There is not much that we are going to say on the presentations that were given as we were part of the discussions. But we would want to emphasize the point that was made by Mr. Harris on the change of the name of the task team, notwithstanding the fact that, of course, there has to be some other feedback that is going to be provided in as far as it relates to the work that the department is going to submit, the business case, and the feedback thereof. There would seem to be some confusion that would arise on the name of OSD, and I think the point has been emphasized that it might have some confusion or it might carry some connotations that we are reviewing OSD. So we don't want that point to be taken forward, because we know where the review of OSDs resides. Of course, we know that it's not only affecting child and youth care workers, but the entire cadre of social service professionals. So we thought that we need to mention that as a first point, but also maybe just comment on, of course, there would be some differences in opinion in terms of where those discussions are to take place. DSD is of the view that it's PSCBC. We are of the view that it's the Public Health and Social Development Sectoral Bargaining Council. But that is another discussion for another day. But Chair, we want to specifically speak to this point.
I suspect it's network or load shedding. Ndate Butelezi, unmute.
Can you not
also show your video. Can you also just please, for those who do not know you, can you please reveal your video?
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, it's for that purpose of load shedding that I'm having my video off. My network is very, very slow where I am.
Yeah.
My apologies. I know that a number of comrades would want to remind themselves of my face, but
I recommend you just reveal it and then close it off, just like zoom, and then you switch it off. Thank you.
Okay, let me just try and do that, Chair, without disturbing the process. Can you see me now?
Not
Chair?
yet. Not yet.
Okay. Hey, I don't know what's happening on the side.
Lisego, please. You are not Mr. Butelezi. Please close your video.
Let me continue, Chair, because I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose the. I was just saying, Chair, that we wanted to make a comment on or rather support the point by Ms. Vogwana on the review of the RPL process, because we don't want to, continue and think that we don't have child and youth care workers who are, by the way, practicing as child and youth care workers, will know that social development is not the only employer of child and youth care workers. We also have, your former Busasa employees who would have at the time completed their training in terms of the FETC certificates, so on and so forth. But some of them were not recognized in terms of the RPL process. And as such, during the migration from Busasa to the department, because we're now in a process of employing them in the public service, because we all know what happened in the Busasa debacle. So the challenge that we have now is that we have a cohort of child and youth care workers who have experience, very, very great experience in the secure care fraternity, dealing with the youth in conflict with the law, but according to the department are not employable because they don't have the qualification itself. So those are the kind of things that we really need to relook at as we go forward as a task team. Otherwise, Chair, we support all the processes that have undergone. We really appreciate the help that we have received from the department, in particular Umam Vokwana, the work that she has done, and also the business case that she has developed. We think that with that, it will take us forward, and of course, we are looking forward, Chair, to further engagements and a special appreciation to the council, and I think we didn't say this before, a special appreciation to the council entirely, with yourself at the helm, Registrar, because we coming, as a council, we're coming from a time where there was instability. And I think that at this point, the council and its own processes is stabilized. And we think that going forward, your leadership is taking us forward to where we want to see ourselves, in that we want to see child and youth care workers, being respected similarly to what the kind of respect that social workers are receiving, not only from the community, but from other professionals. We really appreciate the effort that this council is making. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not sure if I was speaking also on behalf of the council, but Mr. Enoch will just come in for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Buti. We really appreciate your affirmation of the great strides that Council is making, and also the movement that is happening in the country in the best interest of our child and youth care work sector. And we appreciate the ongoing support that we receive from NEHAU on all the engagements that we've had around issues affecting the entire social service sector. Thank you so much. I noted the hand of Pila. I'm not sure if it's a he or a she, but please take to the mic. And if you may, reveal your video briefly and you can close it. Pila? Can you please unmute yourself, Pila, if you're not having network problems?
Okay, greetings to everyone and all protocol observed. Thank you so much for the opportunity. One thing that I would like to ask, I'm a child and youth care worker and auxiliary child and youth care worker, but for some time now I haven't worked, but in the process, because of lack of jobs in childcare, I wasn't sure what to do, so I did communication science. So I have a degree in communication science. So I want to know do you also recognize other professions if you are in a certain level? Because I was a mentor at an NACCW, and I grew professionally in so many areas and in one of the organizations at JSI. So with the experience that I have and the degree that I have and the auxiliary child and youth care worker, do you, when you categorize child and youth care workers, also consider such people, or it must just be child and youth care work when you like you putting them on those certain levels that you were talking about when you were talking about the levels that child and youth care workers are given?
Thank you, Pilar. I'm sure respective members of the board will, give a response to your inquiry. I'm going to check with the other colleagues, Comrade Rikozo, Comrade Mashabi, and any other colleagues from the labor federations who are in the house today to please give their responses to the presentation by Ndate Alfred Harris on behalf of the OSD task team, as well as the presentation by Mayor Amanda Pokwana. Comrade Mashabi, Rikozo, and the other colleagues, please.
Thank you, Program Director. My name is Enoch Mochavi. I'm from the Public Health and Social Development Sector Bargaining Council, and I've been honored to be part of this particular task team, where we have dealt at length with the issues of the child and youth care worker. Am I audible, Chair? Am I audible?
You are. I'm just worried. I think there's somebody else whose mic is open. I'm just trying to check who's that so that we can mute the person. But please go ahead.
Okay. No, thank you very much. I think when we first got the invitation for the summit, we were unable at the time to make a presentation, but we have been honored to be part of this particular task team to do this particular matter. It is naive of us of the council to not to ignore the critical role that the council plays as one of our critical stakeholder, and also just to be part of this particular session where we know that whatever the outcome of this particular session might at some point find expression at the level of the public health and social sector. Part of our goal, which is something that we have seen that this particular exercise has assisted us on, was with regards to what we endeavor to achieve, which is to ensure that there's labor peace in the sector or there's fair treatment for all the people that are within this particular sector. The sector I'm referring to the public health and social development portfolios for both of them. So the report that was presented by Mr. Harris is indeed a true reflection. As we can see that the meetings that we have had, the initial planned session where we were going to have this follow-up session, which was going to be in September. Already as a task team, we have had something that we were going to be presenting to this particular summit. And also what Ms. Pokwana has already covered on is something that we have touched on as a task team. So we will, as the office of the General Secretary from our side as the Public Health and Social Development Bargaining Council, keep on supporting this particular initiative. I think it's evident that the parties might be aware that as the council, we have concluded Resolution 1 of 2019, which is an agreement on the implementation of the occupational specific dispensation for social service profession and occupations. That particular resolution touches base on some issues that covers the issues of the child and youth care workers, their career pathing for grade 1 and grade 2 and so forth. So this particular exercise will obviously assist us as a council when we go forward in terms of the engagements.
Hello.
That we have. I've got a bit of a background of what is transpiring. We would like to the team, the council itself, the support staff, Elizabeth and Lebohang, we have all continuously assisted us, communicated with us, kept us abreast in terms of the engagement at this particular level. So we are saying to the council, all the best, and we will continuously support any of the initiatives that you might have. And also the labor colleagues that we work with, Comrade Buti, Comrade Gracia Rekoto, as well as Mr. Shabangu from the National Department of Social Development, that continuous support, that continuous engagement, is particularly in trying to make sure that we reach finality in terms of this particular aspect. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Comrade Mashabi, for the reflections that you are giving us. And we really appreciate also the ongoing support that we get from the PHSD Sector Bargaining Council. And we look forward to more engagements and anything that we can do together to move our sector forward. We really appreciate. Thank you so much for your reflections. Comrade Rikoso, do you have anything to say? Whilst she's sorting out her mic, I want to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Member of our Portfolio Committee on Social Development, Mayor Bridget Masango. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on this webinar. And we do, thank you and also the committee for the ongoing support and recognition of the work that the South African Council for Social Service Professions, as well as the professional boards, are doing. We know it's not enough, but we're working, tirelessly to make sure that we can cover the ground and, make sure that we elevate the role that the social service workforce can play in the country to mitigate the many problems that we see, affecting our communities. Thank you so much, Mema Sambo. And I think maybe before we do the closing, if you are still with us or before you recuse yourself, I would really appreciate you giving a few words to the attendees. Thank you. Comrade Rikozo, if you are ready. Okay, I'm not sure if she's struggling with network issues, but I want to check with the members from any other labor federation that might be in the house today, if they have any reflections to make. In the absence of that, I want to now open this session for questions and comments. And I would love that we start with the comments. I saw that Kabasia has been having some in and out because of network problems, but if he's managed to come back in, I would love for him to please put forward the questions and have responses from the boards or members of council in the house today. Ndate Kabasia, are you back in? I'm just trying to check if he's managed to log back in.
Thank you, Chair. And my apologies, as you said, I'm disadvantaged by the network and load shedding. Chair, I have posted my questions on the chat box, but I think the first question I wanted to raise was the fact that the National Department of Social Development trained the 10,000 child and youth care workers at NQF level 4. And noting the presentation from Mayor Vokwana that indicates that they actually need to upgrade to level 5. I'm asking a question whether is there consideration by National DSD and Health and Welfare SETA in particular to commit to this upgrade project so that the benefits of having trained 10,000 people, that investment can be maximized fully. But secondly, on the way forward in the presentation, I found the funding of or possible funding for diploma and degree programs for child and youth care workers missing as part of the way forward. So the question was, is that part of the consideration as part of the business case? And lastly, Chair, I raised a specific question here, and I said for DPSA and the National Department of Social Development, as well as organized, that while discussions on OSD goes on, is there a possibility of considering appointing child and youth care workers into assistant director and deputy director levels outside OSD as a temporary measure until the OSD discussion is concluded? And I'm saying that because the management gap in the child and youth care work sector is quite it's quite wide, and I think maybe waiting for the OSD discussions to be concluded, this could take a bit of time. And my view was that maybe we need to consider an option of appointing these people not into OSD post, but general administrative post, but with specialization on child and youth care work, so that then we are able to appoint them at the level of assistant director and deputy director to manage child and youth care programs in different entities. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Ntate Kabasia, for those very important questions. And I think I would allow the DSD, Health and Welfare SETA, UNICEF to respond, or any other person, even members of the board, to respond to the questions. So that there's an issue, one, around the investment that was made on about 10,000 cadres who were trained in NQF level 4 social auxiliary, child and youth care auxiliary training. Is there commitment to further expand their training or even upgrade to a level 5? And to make sure that we maximize that investment, so it cannot all be in vain. There has to be more commitment to make sure that there's money set aside to take them for further advanced training. There's also a question about, the progression, the assistant director positions, or the way that Kabasia has put it, there are different positions that can be created or could be filled by our child and youth care workers who are experienced but might not necessarily have the requisite qualification at this stage. We need to create a pathway for them to start being exposed to supervisory positions so that they can gain the management experience and all of that. So these are very important questions and food for thought for the National Department, for Health and Welfare SETA, and for any other person, SACSSP, QCTO. Let us have, even universities, let us look at ways in which we can, look at these questions and see opportunities to move the child and youth care sector forward. I would want to note, hence, if there are anyone who's ready with a reflection to the questions by Ntate Kabasia, and any other person who wants to ask questions, please raise your hand. I'm not able to quickly, check the charts, because then I lose focus in terms of just managing. So if people can please raise their hands, let's have a dialogue instead of putting issues in the chat box. Sis Miriam, I saw you were typing something. Can we have a response to the issues that Ntate Kabasia so eloquently raised? And I expect also the department and the other stakeholders that I've mentioned to please give a response. House Miriam? DUT? Okay, I see she's saying it's long overdue. Child and youth care workers should be appointed as directors. And, okay. Can we please have responses? Dr. Tambadu, I note your hand. Please go ahead.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much to Mr. Kabasia for raising these two important questions. I think they've been questions that have been asked by the board and the child and youth care sector for a long time now. And I'm hoping that some representatives from the department would answer them, because we as a professional board can't, except to say that we do believe there are creative ways, as Mr. Kabasia says, to make appointments in the department that allow for the opportunity for potentially strong managerial child and youth care workers to find themselves journeying into positions that would allow the child and youth care sector to feel that someone within the department is negotiating for us, is speaking for us. Otherwise, we are always feeling that decisions that are made by the department, documents that are produced around workforce enhancement and development, don't necessarily have the voice of child and youth care workers articulated. So I think a response from the department on the creation of posts at this level would be very valuable to hear. But on the other hand, the issue of mobility of child and youth care workers from auxiliary to professional is equally critical. And efforts made in those 10,000 child and youth care workers who were developed was to create mentor posts, supervisory capacity, with many of them being degree child and youth care workers as well. And unfortunately, we've lost those workers. And it would be quite critical to look at at ways in which the department again can support. I think that when Mpumi presented on the higher education task team, she showed a partnership by the range of stakeholders that I think you mentioned, Madam Chair, the SACSSP, the university, the DUT in this particular case, and HWCTA and Department of Social Development coming together to unanimously endorse an initiative to look at a way of fast-tracking some of the auxiliary child and youth care workers into the higher certificate and into the degree options through an innovative portfolio course or portfolio module, and that is being explored. And I think we need to put bursaries and funding into that development, because we are sitting with practitioners, the large number of them, as the statistics show, which are close to 8,000 child and youth care workers who don't only have a qualification, they've got non-accredited qualification, they've got workforce experience, they've got practice wisdom. And we do need to recognize that they come in with a variety of rich academic and non-academic capacities that have to be built on and developed. And it is going to be in the interest of children and communities. So maybe back to say, I know that Ms. Luthuli is going to possibly speak next, but I do think we need the department to respond to those two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't want to spoil what you have said. You've clearly articulated the issues. I would request the stakeholders that I've mentioned, if they have anything to share, please raise your hand. Mpumi.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Zeni, for the response as well. I think I would like to add, because I've added on my message, but yeah, I think the dialogue needs people to express themselves. And I would like to thank DDG Kabasia for raising this. It's very important for us to have a dialogue on this. Why I'm saying that, you know, when we speak about the pathways in childcare, we cannot only speak of PhDs, the masters and everything, while we don't have a strategy to retain the workforce in child and youth care. Because if we have all these good things and ideas, the SACSSP, HWCTA are coming on board, after all has been done and said, where are we going to keep these people? Because definitely sure they wouldn't want to settle for a level 6, which is a supervisor in childcare. There's no career pathing in that. So we cannot be putting the good wishes and everything there while we don't have a strategy on how to retain these people. Hence, we are losing most of people to other professions or to other departments. I think he raised a very valid question here that we need to look at it, to say, while waiting for OSD, what is it that the department can assist, come to the party to say, these are the strategies that we need to keep this workforce here while working on the OSD. I think I support him 110%. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mpumi, for your reflections. Are there any responses? Sis Amanda, Ndate Devon, Rudy, colleagues from the National Department, do you have any reflections to the questions that were put forward? And I would ask the same also of our other stakeholders, SACSSP, QCTO, Health and Welfare Sector, and even UNICEF, if you have. Ndate Harris? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam. Yes. No, thank you for the opportunity again. I think that I just want to go back to the point that was raised by Butaliz, that we have to look at this, the name change. We must change the name of the staff team. It cannot be OSG, because OSG has got other connotations. And I think that one of the outcomes of the summit is that we need to get from DSD really concrete steps that's going to be taken to really push the field forward. There must be that willingness, and I understand Mrs. Wakwana's presentation to the department's executive and to MINMEC and to HSD and all other important stakeholders. But I think there must be a point where the field really sees that there is impetus given from the department to move the field forward. And as Mr. Kabasia said in his comment, there must be a way to be able to appoint child and youth care workers outside of OSD into posts of assistant directors, policy developers, so that while that process of the OSD unlocked, because that process is going to take a long time. What I have heard in our engagement with organized labor, that's going to take a long time, and the sector cannot wait for that process to unfold before the sector moves forward. And then also my other point also, maybe it's not for this meeting, but there are other processes taking place within the Department of Social Development for the employment of social service professionals globally, in social workers, child care workers, and community development practitioners. And one needs to see how all these processes are intertwined to make it one process. We don't have all these processes running separately, but the process of employing SSPs, child care workers, as we want our sector to be given preference because of what has happened previously. But we must also see how all these processes run together for the benefit of our beneficiaries. But for me, the point I want to make is that we need to get out of the summit concrete steps with dates attached to it when social development will be able to expedite the decisions that's being taken. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, but Alfred. Are there any responses from the department, from SACWA, QCTO, Health and Welfare SETA, or any other colleagues? And I've noted Comrade Buti's support for the proposal put forward by Ntate Kabasia for immediate appointment whilst waiting for the OSD processes to finalize. Thank you, Comrade Buti. Thank you, Dr. Heidi. Nothing from SACWA side. I don't see any other hands. Would Devon please go ahead, followed by Sis Amanda and then Sis Champa from the Health and Welfare SETA. Would Devon?
Thank you, Chairperson, colleagues, all protocol observed. Just a quick response to DDG Kabasia's comments, and I think we need to look at this holistically. Having listened to the program from the beginning, looking at the RPL to move the officials, looking at the career path, it seems that all the pieces of the puzzle is coming together. So it's fitting in nicely. We need to align it with other processes, as the previous speaker, Mr. Harris, has said, and that was going to be my comment in terms of the appointment. I think the issue about commitment for upgrading these officials in terms of both study-wise is a commitment the department can make, because I think the issue of development is at the heart of social development of all its workforce. So the development of them from whatever level, NQF level 4 to NQF masters and NQF level 10 is something that we commit, and there's enough opportunity within the department that can be used to deal with this. I think the issue about the creative ways of employing the 10,000 needs to be engaged further in the necessary task team and the business case that has been made. So the commitment we can make is that the development of all of these officials is important and critical to the department, and that's something that is deemed to be falling in place. The proposal that was made by Amanda in terms of the task team, although we need to refine it a bit, is in line with exactly what we want to do. One, we want to make sure that our auxiliaries are now developed into becoming professionals. In doing that, I think the issue of progression is a natural consequence. We should not jump the issue about upgrading before we deal with the progression. So I think what we're trying to do is having a logical sequence in dealing with, let us get the RPL, let us then make them into professional, and professional consequence would be the progression that has been made. The appointment of child and youth care workers in admin posts, I think it's plausible, but I think we would need to engage that further in the
These are
in the past team. I want to also say that the previous speaker rightfully said, and which comment I want to make about the retention strategy and the recruitment strategy is basically we have started a process of dealing with the strategy for the employment of SSPs. And the SSPs is not confined to social workers. So the inputs, all of these inputs must find its way into that strategy. And we're going to have engagements with the professional board and with council and with labor in terms of the inputs. And I'm sure that would be the strategy going forward. And in the following year, we're looking at taking that strategy to the private sector, business, etc. So the strategy, there is a draft strategy that's in place to talk about that. We just need to give that some space and give input into it. That would be my comment, Chairperson, with regards to DDG Kabasia's comments. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mutevan, for the commitment from the National Department. We really welcome that, and we look forward to having a synergized plan, national supporting provinces to make sure that there is consistent application and rollout of whatever initiatives that are in the best interest of the entire sector and the communities who stand to benefit. Thank you. Sis Amanda, you are next, followed by Ms. Champa.
Chairperson, I'm fine. I support what Devin has said. I was also going to raise some of the things. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Amanda. Sis Champa?
Good day, Chair and all present. From my side, I see that our executive manager has left the meeting. So I guess I'm obliged to make a comment in terms of HWCTA's involvement. As you would know, I'm not mandated, obviously, to provide any formal commitment in the absence of the CEO and the executive manager. But as Ms. Bakedi mentioned at the beginning of the session, that obviously if there's engagement with the HWCTA CEO as well as the executive managers, obviously they would be more than happy to interrogate what commitments the HWCTA will be able to provide. And the HWCTA CEO, as Ms. Bakedi mentioned, has definitely agreed to support the necessary initiatives that would be put on the table in the future. But obviously that's subject to further discussions and later on with the senior management and the HWCTA CEO. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Champa. We appreciate also your word of confirmation or reiterating what has been said earlier on behalf of the CEO. We look forward to more follow-up sessions to explore those avenues. Ndate Ngonyama, you are next.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I also want to make an input, starting by appreciating all the presentations so far from the task teams. It looks like a lot of work has been done, and listening to them, I think it does get to a point that was made by the President in her opening remark, that there is a need for integration so that we do not find these task teams running parallel to one another and not really meeting each other or integrating. So that would be one point that I think that we need to seriously take into consideration. And during the integration, during those meetings where the different task teams are meeting one another, there will be some processes that are going to come out of there, which can be taken forward or be agreed to be moved forward by any of the task teams, because that will be meeting of minds, it will be sharing of ideas and generating of points or ideas of moving forward. I also want to support the point made from the department with regard to supporting the child and youth care workers in further studies. And in the district development model task team, we spoke of the workforce development. I think the point made by Mr. Kabasia of considering appointment of child and youth care workers on a higher level would be very helpful, because when some of these discussions are taking place, there will be a voice from the child and youth care sector coming through an official. And while we wait for that, as the department have discussions on supporting the child and youth care workers in further studies, they need to ensure that they consult with the Child and Youth Care Board. Because I'm saying this because the workforce development in our task team, when we presented on the workforce development, we need to ensure that when we develop and support the child and youth care workers, we prioritize the right places. As I indicated, there are areas where we need to urgently develop supervisors, people on supervisory level, and same with degrees and diplomas and master's degrees. We know that there are provinces that need an urgent support to develop a higher level cadres of child and youth care workers. And the last point I want to make is that this was said right from the beginning, that as we move with this process, we must always be mindful that we do not leave out the child and youth care workers who are in the NPO sector, because a lot of what is being presented here talks to the child and youth care workers who are in the government employ, and very little about the NPO. And that is where majority of the 10,000 that we are talking about, it's located, and those are many of those are very unhappy. So as we address this child and youth care situation, we need to be doing that on both sides, so that we don't advance one and leave the other behind. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ntate Ngonyama, for your reflections. I want to just acknowledge the input made by Louise Lepan from the National School of Governance. There is a free online ethics, and it's free to support the professionalization of public servants. So that is something that we need to take advantage of to advance, our public service, especially focusing on child and youth care workers. Thank you so much, Louise, for that contribution. And I want to just share that on our live streaming channel, we have 20 followers and 20 actually watching with 190 subscribers. There are 2 comments, one from Ndumiso, I think it's Simpiwe Mpaliso from Erika Child and Youth Care in the Eastern Cape, who expresses appreciation for the National Department. All their child and youth care workers have been exposed to level 5 training in child and youth care work. And there's also a contribution by Ndumiso Koyana, who is saying, thank you, Sister Amanda, but could we have timelines, and when do we have access to the template? When can it be ready? And also he's saying to Ntate Harris, enough of talking, let's have some action. And I think we all agree that, the time is now for us to act and not talk. And the work of the respective committee actually confirms that. I also have questions sent on WhatsApp from Zali. I think she's in the Western Cape. She's saying she wants clarity on salaries of child and youth care workers who practice for the first time and in possession of a degree in social sciences, but their salary is equivalent to those who possess matric. How many years level must level 1 child youth care workers wait for salary adjustments to take place? And what is the role of the council in ensuring that the category of workers mentioned above receive salaries equivalent to their academic progression? And she further mentions that in the Western Cape, the situation is bleak. It is very depressing. They have to endure hardships in the work. They've signed contracts, and she's saying a lot of things. And I think I will make follow-up to the young person who has sent this WhatsApp text about the problems that are ensuing or unfolding in the child and youth care workspace in the Western Cape, especially in child and youth care centers, she says. And I'm glad that Mayor Bridget Masango, our member of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, is still with us. Like I said earlier, I would want to give an opportunity to give her reflections, on her understanding of the issues, but also as a member of the Portfolio on Social Development. Mayor Masango, can you please take to the virtual stage and give your reflections?
Thank you so much, Chairperson, both for just having me on this platform and for the opportunity to say a few words. I have to apologize up front. I believe the neighbors are doing some work in their home because there's so much noise coming from the background. You know, the issues as have been deliberated upon this morning are really if you like, a confirmation of what one has.
Ma'am Bridget?
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It seems to me like the encouraging part of this meeting this morning is that it seems to me like all the stakeholders that are providing guidance, services, direction, policies, regulations are together here. And the presentations, at least that I have seen, are going towards making sure that what we keep saying gets actually done, as it were. And I am not in a position right now to sort of reflect on what I think the Portfolio Committee on Social Development should or should not be doing, because the reason why I asked for these documents is because one saw very helpful information that was coming out of those of the presentations that were made, and one will be able to then do a review, if you like, or a perusal of the documentation and connect that to what we heard when we had a session with the child and youth care workers in Cape Town at the beginning of the public hearings, and of course the information that we have received from the various centers where this very important work is being done. Other than to say, Chairperson, that I cannot thank enough the patience of the people in your office who have been sending us this information, because otherwise one would not have known, or one would not have been exposed to the work that each and every stakeholder is doing and the task teams that have worked flat out to do the work that is being presented today. So I cannot thank you all colleagues enough, and obviously the council for having sort of organized for this conference or summit to take place. I can make an undertaking that after looking at the work that has been, the documents that have been submitted and presented here this morning, one will be able to write a very, very short, if you like, reflection and send it to your office for sharing with the attendees of this meeting. But other than that, I really, really want to thank you so much for the opportunity. I did not expect to have an opportunity to say anything because I just wanted to listen to what the stakeholders have to say about this important work that everyone is doing in the child and youth care work space in this country. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Ma'am Bridget, for being the type of leader that you are. I know I put you on the spot, but thank you for the that commitment and also the appreciation of all the stakeholders and all the role players who are here, and the ongoing communication from council. We hoping, and we are always hopeful that as we engage with our principals, somebody would listen, because we know you have so much that you have to deal with as a portfolio committee. But for us, it is important that the portfolio committee that champions the work or gives oversight to the work that we do, is always apprised of what is happening in the best interest of the citizens of this country. So thank you so much. We really feel blessed that you had available time to sit in and listen. And we will definitely, appreciate your reflections once you've perused all the documents, and we will share them gladly with the rest of the participants here today. So on this note, I want to give now to Mr. Harris to give summary and way forward. And I think what is important is for this meeting to accept the reports from the respective, task teams, and to endorse them, whatever way forward or recommendations. I'm sure when Ndate Harris is doing his summary, he would also just talk to how we have to move and endorse, whatever has been presented, because it is good information that has been shared by the various task teams. So thank you very much to all the chairpersons of those respective task teams for continuing to, engage and make sure that real issues are being focused on, and that we're moving from just talking, but to coming up with implementable, things that we can do. So thank you so much. I'll hand over now to Ndate Harris to give the summary and way forward, and then he will be followed by Dr. Tambadu. Thank you. Over to you, Alfred.
Good afternoon again. Thank you, Madam Registrar. I just noticed something in the chat box here from UNICEF, who indicated their willingness to serve on the OSD task team. And Ms. Micah, through our structure, we will make contact with you. And then you can also see how you can be part of the task team. Colleagues, let me show you my face before I disappear. That is me. I hope you can see me. I'm going to switch it off again because of load shedding. Colleagues, thank you very, very much for everyone who has been part of this process. We started this process on May the 6th. Today is November the 9th, 2021. And I can say that since May the 6th up to now, we have made very good progress. However, as alluded to by the registrar, is that we need to have concrete action steps in place that the sector can really see that we are really serious about moving the sector forward. Never, can I ask you just to move the agenda up for me, please? Since you started this morning, we have heard some very, very valuable input from the various speakers on this platform. Started out with our introduction around the higher education task team, the work that they have undertaken. And I want to say that from the council point of view and from the board's point of view, I've always maintained that we can, as the council and as a board, we can engage with all the higher education department, but there must be a commitment from the department to be able to absorb these practitioners that will come out of university with a 4-year degree. And the department needs to be clear on saying what is the requirement in terms of practitioners in child and youth care work at the various levels that is required and the qualification that is required for those practitioners, so that the universities can be sure that they will be able to get a continuous flow of people into universities to take up the course. We also want to have a special word of thanks to DUT for developing for designing with us a process of getting child and youth care workers to be able to attain a tertiary qualification to the portfolio development course that you're busy working on. And I want to say that work with the DUT and other universities is going to continue so that we can make sure that not only are the practitioners prepared, but we can also open up for those practitioners who didn't have the opportunity to complete their tertiary qualifications or through what we know in this country, not having access to educational opportunities. We want to make sure that they also are allowed to give that the opportunity. Then I want to say thank you then, summary for the district development model. It is so good to see that COCTA has come to the party and really made a valuable input to the utilization of social service practitioners and the valuable role that child and youth care workers can play in making sure that services are provided to our beneficiaries, to different beneficiaries and stakeholders in this country. We know that service delivery in our country and that service delivery in our country impacts families and communities in very many different ways. And that also plays a part in the protection of vulnerable children in our community, where through the diversity development model and the approach that this country is taking to take services to the communities, we're best to place our childcare workers, but in our communities where their services will be valuable and they can render direct services to children and families in their community. So thank you to Mr. Timber Fossey. You will be thanked later, sir, for the insight that you provided in terms of this process and how we can take the process forward. Then also, I want to also say that the big focus obviously is on opportunities for child and youth care workers within the public sector. And we know that we have a cohort, and I don't have the exact number of child care workers working in government, but those are child care workers who have hopes for themselves in order to progress within government to the highest position available for them. But the opportunities in terms of career pathing for child care workers in government is not there. And it's incumbent upon government to really unlock the opportunities that is there. And I know it's difficult. We're facing difficult challenges in many ways, but we have to unlock opportunities for child and youth care workers in government so that we can see that there's a career path for them, and then also not neglecting our comrades and the cadres within the public sector, within the private sector, the NGO sector. We mustn't leave them behind in lieu of only working for the government sector, child and youth care workers. But we have to develop a plan that incorporates all of them. So in summary, colleagues, the important thing that we come out here is that we have made some strides, we've made some steps. We want to thank every stakeholder, even though it might come across that the work that we want to better the department. That's not the case. The case is here, we see ourselves as one team working for a common goal and for a common purpose in mind, and that is to move child and youth care workers in all sectors forward, so that we can make sure that our vulnerable children are protected and provided with services by the most qualified people ever. Thank you, Madam Registrar.
Thanks, Alfred. Nungerti Pierre, please mute. Thank you. I want to now hand over to Dr. Tambadu. You'd remember in the morning I had to skip her presentation because she had some load shedding challenges. I've just agreed with her that she will give a very brief overview of what she had prepared in the morning to just give a nice, context to the whole summit, and also to do her closing remarks. Over to you, Dr. T.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Registrar. The update report from the May 6th summit on the crisis of the child and youth care sector is, I thought, being presented now at the end, maybe interestingly enough, because it was supposed to provide that overview of an overview for the task team presentations, but maybe it gives you a chance as well to look at what we've achieved, look at the issues that were of concern to us, and see how we have tried to work towards resolving them to some extent or impacting on them. Thank you, everybody, for your attention, and thank you for being patient with me as well with the load shedding issues. Just to say that, again, that the inequities in the public sector are linked to the OSD for child and youth care workers compared to social workers, community development workers, and that glass ceiling that was created for employment opportunities for child and youth care workers. I think it has been addressed in many of the discussions and in the business case that has been presented by the department. But I think that just to raise here that this has been a very core and fundamental challenge that child and youth care workers have struggled with, and struggled to see their mobility and struggled to see their salaries being with that level of equality and equity. And I think that the issue that came up in the debate as well, the lack of a directorate or positions for child and youth care worker at National Department of Social Development, which will drive the transformation in the profession. Too often, other people are speaking for childcare workers. There are recent documents that have come out, for example, on the capacity analysis of posts at provincial level, the issue of supply and demand documents that we have to comment on. And child and youth care workers, we're grateful, are well integrated in those documents, but we haven't had a chance to participate in contributing to the way we've positioned and the way we're understood. And I think that again raises the issue that we're needing that champion at National Department. I think that also the challenge that raised us to come to the summit with all our issues was the recruitment process. NDSD does not actually link to the registration requirements of council. So quite often we have people employed as child and youth care workers with no training and no background. We recently, and we've heard a question that came from the floor, we've recently as a professional board had a discussion with the Western Cape Provincial Department of Social Development to actually try and clarify the issue of regulation requirements as an example. Also, the advertisements for child and youth care centre managers only require social work as a qualification, not child and youth care workers. We know that in the NGO sector, there are a large number of child and youth care workers who are running and managing child and youth care centres. And these opportunities for mobility and growth, again, needing to be opened to the field. Child and youth care workers in many cases are being supervised by social workers. Child and youth care work has a unique scope of practice, and our unique scope of practice to be practiced with integrity requires supervisors who understand that practice and actually allow them to do what they're supposed to do. Quite often you find child and youth care workers performing like many social workers because they've actually not been able to implement their practice. A lot of the people in the field quite often complain we're not allowed to practice what we've learned because another profession is supervising us. If we could go on to the next slide, please. The next slide, Lebo, please. I'll carry on talking because the next slide talks about the fact that there are many qualified NGO and CBO childcare workers who are earning stipends, not salaries. This is a real cry from the field, and the many people listening in who are live streaming in are those very people. And they've raised with the board again and again through social media and in direct discussions Can you please look at what we're earning? Many of them earning even below 3.5, which is your basic minimum salary, which is actually illegal for the department to be paying these salaries. And they're employed in the NGO sector, but through department subsidies. This continues even as we speak at this particular point in time. There are delayed and late payments of stipends and salaries to the NGOs, causing delayed salary payments to childcare workers. This matter was raised and raised with the department again and again, that if you're actually at provincial level allowing NPOs to receive salaries so late, they can't pay them to childcare workers on time. Then sometimes people call it the dry season, where for 3 months or so, people are not earning, not salaries, stipends even. And that is actually a concern. Lebo, you are going to try and move my slides, please. Of course, I think it's come across clearly that we are concerned that there are too few tertiary institutions that are offering child and youth care degrees for postgraduate qualifications, and that number needs to be increased. We want to apologize to University of Johannesburg. We are aware that we are working with you and you weren't mentioned, and you're actually the university we're looking forward to for our partnership for supplying, I think, professional child and youth care workers in Gauteng, but of course nationally. And we acknowledge UNISA with the efforts that they're making at the moment as well towards the professional child and youth care degree, for which we are appreciative. And I think that the issue of bursaries, that there are too few bursaries for child and youth care workers for degree studies. And I think that we need to look at both HWSETA and the Department of Social Development to show that they embrace this need for the professional development in this very practical and tangible way of providing the bursaries and making them available. The next slide, which I would have liked to have shown you, and I'm really, really sorry that that's not being able to be seen. There you have it, is just an interesting statistic. I just had updated figures for this presentation from the registration department. And you might remember, you might not, but at the last summit, which was 6 months ago, we identified that we were talking about 11,282 child and youth care workers that are registered with council. That number has moved from 700 in 6 months. Just indicating to all of you there that this is a very active, vibrant field. Child and youth care workers are committed to professionalization. Child and youth care workers are showing that they want to actually be part of a regulatory workforce. And our numbers have increased to 12,000. But of course, as you can see, and I hope everybody can understand that 67% are auxiliary, 29% are students, learners who are auxiliary, which means that gives you a 97% of our workforce that is at auxiliary level. So you can understand our desire to move these workers, who I said earlier and I say it again, who are quite brilliant in the field. They have formal education with the FET certificate at level 4, but they have non-formal courses ranging from more than 30 different courses that they might have done, including their experience and practice wisdom at child and youth care centers and in communities. And we need to look at how do we lift them up into positions that acknowledge that richness of prior learning and knowledge that they have. Of course, our concern is that even though there are 2% students coming in with the professional level, the concern is that so many of them are at trained only at DUT. So there are 263 students within the degree program at the Durban University of Technology. Hopefully they're national students. Otherwise, we're just populating KZN, but you can see as well that we have a highest number of professional degreed people in KwaZulu-Natal, with Gauteng following. And that is because of Monash that has actually helped us with the child and youth care degrees there. So this slide is important because it does represent the crisis that we are trying to sort of, and I mean, again, to say, appreciate the comments by HWSETA and the department about moving into professionalizing. If I could have the next slide. So this summit that we held on the 6th of May, 6 months ago, this is our feedback summit to you. At that summit, we had 76 people attending and more than 2,362 people live streamed in. We're not too sure of the people who have live streamed in this time, because I believe there are some difficulties with the connection, but Lebo tells me that we've got about 74 people who are in attendance at this meeting. And that's important because it seems like people are still interested in the field. People are still coming to our summit to hear how are we responding to that need. I think the next point is that we recognize as a professional board that we need the multi-stakeholder cooperation, including state bodies. We can't do that. We can't do what we need to do without your presence and your involvement. We need that support behind the child and youth care sector. And again, just reminding you that we are the sector, we are the social service profession whose focus is on the child. While we focus on the child in the context of family and community, it is ultimately the child that we are trained to respond to. And protecting the child and youth care sector protects the child. So the summit had the purpose of creating that platform for understanding the long-standing challenges faced by the child and youth care sector. And I think just to make that point as we conclude as well, that these are long-standing. And I think that, again, when the question was asked, Madam Registrar, from someone, we are talking a long time. When are we going to implement? I think child and youth care workers are getting impatient. And we do need to see that we just don't continue to talk and write up documents, but we actually deliver to their needs. Of course, our purpose was also to provide the platform to engage with key relevant stakeholders on the issues facing child and youth care in the profession, and you've heard them already, and to agree upon practical and actionable steps to address these challenges. And in it, you could see in the presentation of Donald as well on the district development model, is that the child and youth care sector is alert to opportunities for development, alert to strategic, political, and other opportunities that we could use to promote child and youth care workers. And so we set up, as you could see, our 3 thematic groups, which was the Occupational Specific Dispensation Task Team, the Higher Education Task Team, and the District Development Task Team. And they have given you their feedback as to how they've worked. With the next slide. I just want to say that despite the formal meetings that the professional board has to engage in and other stakeholder meetings, besides that, just on the task team, 10 formal meetings and 1 high-level engagement on the district development model has taken place. And this is just to tell you how hard the professional board members have worked in the 6-month period. And I think we've mentioned all the stakeholders before, and I won't go through them, but we did a very purposeful engagement with the national government, with unions, with training bodies, with academic institutions, and of course with council and our members, including our very strong support that we have from UNICEF and donors and other agencies. The next slide. Yeah, the conclusion to these slides was just to say that we understand, and I think this meeting has also shown, the summit, that strong partnerships have been developed with key stakeholders and key relevant stakeholders. We applaud the union supporting us. We are very grateful to Amanda for the attention she's given to the child and youth care sector to understand and to respond in the creation of the first draft business case. The greater awareness of the challenges faced by childcare workers, by key stakeholders. You see, if you don't know what we're struggling with, you can't respond to them. If you don't know who we are, you can't actually make the best efforts to support us. And I think that the summit has created that awareness, for which we are grateful. And I think there is a greater awareness of the importance of child and youth care workers in strategic government and educational initiatives. And we hope that these would be taken forward so that we don't just actually continue with business as usual, but we actually demonstrate as well that we can look at things innovatively and come up with new ways of responding to challenges. All challenges don't have to have the same typical response. And I think that we are grateful to have key stakeholders like SACSSP, like DUT coming on board to say, how can we do things differently to actually respond to your need? And of course, this creates the opportunity for innovation. I thank you for listening to me, and I just hope that this presentation helps give the context for the need for the summit. And I hope we can have the opportunity maybe in February to have another summit where we report back so we don't stand still, that from here till February we can actually demonstrate to you what we have achieved. I want to tell you a story, if you would bear with me. Just about 2 weeks ago, a news reporter went to a donor, a funder, saying that a child that he had reported on, who had been out of school a year ago, was still out of school, living in a community, interestingly, that didn't have a child and youth care worker. And the funder turned to us saying, well, could you identify a child care worker to go and help? Now, an experienced child and youth care went out into that community. They're not from that community, but they went out to just respond to the needs of this child. And let me tell you what they've achieved within 5 days. Just 5 days. The news reporter picked the person up, the child care worker, took her, introduced her to the family and said, well, what are you going to do? So she met with the mother, she had a family discussion, she did a family assessment, she developed a family plan. She identified that the family was dealing with, and the mother particularly, with gender-based violence. They were living in poverty. She was isolated from her extended family and isolated from neighborhood support. There were food security issues. So in the context of all of that, the education of her child and admitting her to school, when it wasn't an easy task for her to do, just wasn't the priority. And in this time, the child and youth care worker made appropriate referrals, referred her to the psychologist for a clinical counseling and for a clinical assessment, referred her to the social worker for the grant application, referred her to the educators and went with her personally to all these people to see that the child could be admitted to school, realizing that the transfer had not happened from the previous school, so went to the previous school in a different community to make sure that the transfer was in place. The situation at the moment is that the child has been admitted to school, that the mother is receiving counseling, that the child support grant has been applied for and it's due to come on the 6th of December, which means this family will have their grant in place for Christmas. And in fact, a discussion on budgeting took place, and the childcare worker left her with a little book to sort of see how she budgets the money in the best interest of the child. This has happened in 5 days. And the story you might one day see back in the news, as a news reporter might actually want to say that with a child and youth care worker at local level, services can be accessed. What is interesting in the story is that the services were there in the community. The social workers and psychologists even were available. This is a Gauteng story. And but the mother was not able to access these resources for reasons of her own, her confidence, her capacity, her mental health issues. For whatever reason, she didn't access the services. And the child and youth care worker was able to network her into the resources and make the services work for her and build a network of support around her. We're no longer going to be in that community because that child care worker doesn't live there. But obviously that community needs child and youth care workers. I want to say that we need more social service professions at district level and in communities. We need a diversity of social service professionals. We need social workers, but we need community development workers, we need ECD practitioners, we need youth development workers, and we certainly need child and youth care workers. We are a youthful population in South Africa, And we need to strategically use opportunities to embrace youth in the social development sector. And we need to develop our youth into social service practitioners. And that is a strategy and an opportunity that I think is available for us to consider now. This is what the transformative agenda is, and this is what the developmental agenda is to recognize the capacity and opportunities of people at local level, in local communities, and look at how can we develop them to serve their own children. And many of the child and youth care workers who we raise as the professional board, the issues time and again, come from these very communities. They can't continue with
my sincere apologies. I have been load shed.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had to try and figure out to join back in. My router is also failing me. So I'm not sure, Dr. T, whether you are finished.
I'm almost finished, and then I'll actually hand over to the advocate, Nalane. Is that okay? Yes. And I'm saying that these child and youth care workers at community level do require the opportunity to be dignified. They need to earn salaries that warrant the quality of work that they deliver, and they need to actually contribute to the transformation and protection of children. We are indeed a workforce for children that does require recognition. That does require commitment from key stakeholders. Today, we do need out-of-the-box thinking. We do need innovation in education and practice models that actually protect and promote the child and youth care sector. And I think, like someone said, the time is now to plan, to develop, and to support the child and youth care sector. Thank you very much, Registrar. I'm sorry. I know that we are running out of time, and we've got now the load shedding that's concerning us. But I just wanted to conclude with a sense that the sector is feeling hopeful with the work that has been presented here and the partnership. And now maybe we could hand over to the last item on the agenda, to Advocate Nalane.
Yeah, thank you so much, Setambadu, for your reflections, for the overview. I know it has reinforced some of the things that has happened. So over to you, Advocate Nalane.
Thank you very much, Registrar. Thank you, Zeni. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who has attended this summit. My name is Advocate Nalane. I'm a member of the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work. I joined this board a couple of years ago, and I didn't know much about this sector. But I've had the privilege of seeing this profession being professionalized and regulated right from the outset. And I participated in crafting and developing the regulations which are now applicable to everybody who participates in this profession. And I've seen the strides that have been made in caring for the people who matter in this profession, the child, as well as those who look after them, the child and youth care workers. And I've come across men and women who are very committed to the core, to the development of the sector, and to all that it is all about. And this summit is a culmination of work that has been happening over the years to get the systems right, to register people, to get them in, to get them energized. And I'm glad that the sector is growing by leaps and bounds. And what we are seeing are challenges which every profession which is developing has to face. We are now dealing with different challenges, but I'm glad that we're dealing with them head on. I want to thank the leadership of the South African Council for Social Professions. We were welcomed heartily by the President, Dr. Maria Mabetwa. Thank you very much. And the various task team leaders who have done work in terms of streamlining the work and being able to report to us. Mpumile Tuli, we thank you very much. She's been very active and she speaks fast. She also runs very fast. We thank you very much, Mpumi, for your assistance and contribution. Those who were responding to the education task team, Ms. Zulusuela, Ms. Heidi Bolton, Ms. Elaine Brass, Dr. Kware, we thank you very much for your input. The Vice President of the South African Council for Social Service Professions, Mr. Donald Ngonyama, we thank you very much for your input and leading that task team. We also want to thank those who were invited to give responses. Mr. Temba Fosi, Deputy Director General, Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs. We thank COCTA as well for their participation and assistance. We want to thank Ms. Isabella Sikawana, Acting DDG, Department of Social Development. Alfred, as always, you lead from the front. We thank you for leading the OSD task team so ably and also reporting on its good work. And Ms. Amanda Vokwana, thank you very much for your report back and the valuable input that you have given us. And of course, organized labor, we thank all the representatives of organized labor, because in this profession that we're in, we need all hands on deck, the employers as well as the employee representatives, because we're all pulling as one and have unity of purpose. Zeni, thank you as always. You have led this professional board ably as the deputy chair and now as the chairperson over the many years. And we also want to thank all the participants who have streamed live, and we are told that there are 74 active members. We want to thank all the guests and everybody who has taken their time to be with us. And Honorable Masango, who has taken time from a parliamentary duties, we thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. And last but not least, the one and only Registrar of the South African Council of Social Professions. As always, Langi, you have outdone yourself. You've run the program with precision and efficiency, and you have led and you continue to lead this profession, and we thank you very much. If I have not mentioned anyone, it is not out of malice or anything else, but thank you everybody for having made this Report Back Summit a success. I'll hand back over to you, Langi. Thank you.
Are you struggling with connectivity?
Yeah, I think the registrar may be experiencing load shedding. I'm experiencing load shedding as well, so I'm not sure if you can hear me. I will take over and round up. Thank you very much, Advocate Nalani, for your thank you remarks. We really appreciate having a person of your caliber in the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care and in Council. And on behalf of the registrar, I would like to say thank you to everybody who made the time and stayed on for until this time at this summit. And as indicated, we are looking forward to meeting again in February, where we are going to be giving an update of the further developments that will be taking place in the next 2 to 3 months Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Comrade President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues, for your attendance. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.